Hello there, and welcome to the third instalment of the Medway Local Plan podcast. And we are here to talk to you about the next stage of the process towards adopting a Medway Local Plan that will outline Medway's growth up to 2041. So here with me today, we have Dave from our head of planning and also Councillor Curry. So Dave, I'll hand over to you to introduce yourself first.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Dave Harris. I'm Chief Planning Officer here in Medway. Have lived and worked in Medway for a considerable period of time.
Thank you, Dave. And over to yourself, Councillor Curry.
Thank you very much. So I'm Simon Curry. I'm Councillor in Luton, just down near Chatham, and I'm the portfolio holder for the council on climate change and strategic regeneration, which includes all planning aspects. And like Dave, I've lived in Medway for an awfully long time, so I know it very well.
Perfect. And yeah, I've lived in Medway for a long time as well. So you've got three individuals here that love Medway. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So in terms of where have we got to, over the last couple of years, we've been in Regulation 18. And Regulation 18 basically involved 2 rounds of consultation. The first one was back in autumn 2023. It seems quite a long time ago now. But during that first consultation, we asked you about the vision and what our objectives are for the new local plan. And that consultation ran during September and October of 2023. We then moved into Regulation 18B, so that was like Regulation 18A. So 18B, and Matt provided you last year, so last summer in 2024, with 3 development options. So that included an option which focused very much on urban development, one which looked at dispersed growth, so more development in like greenfield sites, suburban and rural areas, and also a blended option that kind of mixed the 2 together. So those 3 options were presented last year. We ran a number of events across Medway, and you have the opportunity to have your say on your preferred option, along with as well the policies that we're looking to take forward as well that cover a range of areas really, from environment right through to health. So we are now in Regulation 19 stage. So Dave, I'm going to ask you first of all, what does Regulation 19 mean? And why is having a local plan so important for Medway?
Thanks, Kevin. Regulation 19, and that's jargon, that's planning jargon. But Regulation 19 essentially is where we produce our final draft plan. We then submit that to the planning inspectorate, saying this is our plan to cope with Medway's growth and for the future. And then that will go to an examination in public next year, and hopefully an adopted plan towards the end of next year. So it's our Regulation 19, it's our final draft plan. Why is it important? We live in an ever-changing world, as we all know. Everything is changing around us. We've got climate change as well. Medway's growing. And what we need to do is to properly plan for that, for the benefit of the place that is Medway and the people that live here now and will live here in future and work here and come to visit here as well. So it's vitally important that we plan properly for that growth, so that we get the right development in the right places. Very, very importantly, with the right infrastructure. If we don't plan, what we then will be doing is reacting to things, and in that way you don't necessarily, or you won't get the benefits. You won't necessarily be able to protect what is so wonderful about Medway in terms of our natural and historic environment. We won't necessarily get the right infrastructure to go with things. You get that when you plan properly for things. And it's important to plan properly because, as we've said in our One Council plan, we want everyone to benefit from Medway's growth, everyone to benefit from the regeneration, because the plan impacts on everybody. It's about delivering on our housing need, providing for our need, not just what others think we have. It's about providing the employment. It's about providing the education and the skills to go with that. It's about health. When I talk about health, people immediately start to think about doctors' surgeries and the like. And yes, that is part of that, but it's also about providing for the other determinants of health where we live, the energy efficiency of our homes, the safety in our homes, the ability, our access to open space, ability to get outside the house and walk, the proximity to services, and those other things. There's so much more about health than just doctor surgeries. And it's about providing the infrastructure that's needed to serve that. So yes, it's it's a really, really important plan for Medway.
Thank you so much, Dave. That's a great answer. And yeah, it is particularly important because we've not had a local plan for so long in Medway. When was the last time we actually had a plan in place?
The last time we had an adopted local plan in Medway was 22 years ago, so in 2003. And that's a huge, huge time. In planning terms, that's ancient. And you can, if you think back to what life was maybe like in 2003, it's very, very different now. Things have changed. The economy's changed. Retail has changed. Internet changed. Climate change. All those things. Plans should be updated every 5 years. Now, with the reasons why it hasn't been updated since 2003, but the fact is, the last time we had a plan was 2003, and that, going back to your point, Kevin, emphasises why this plan is just so important, and it's great that Medway Council is bringing this forward now.
Thank you so much, Dave, and to you, Councillor Curry. I suppose we are so close now, aren't we, to getting this plan adopted. Could you just emphasise where we are on the roadmap now to getting the new plan in place that will outline our growth up to 2041?
Yeah, sure. So basically, everything that Dave has said is very, very important about the process and what this plan means to our community, and how vital it is, not just for this community, but as he was saying, to the next generation. The plan, if it goes through, will be take us up to 2041, but as Dave said, it gets reviewed on a regular basis throughout that period, and so we really are in a position where we desperately need this plan to get in place. So what we've done is we've gone through this process of voting it through, and now we're in that stage of having to go out to the public again and ask for more views. So we've got a 6-week period up until August where we ask the question again: what do people think? What does it mean to you and your community? Have you got any concerns about it? Do you feel that you've got any amendments you'd like to make? All that kind of thing. And it's not just individual in the community, but it's also organisations and developers and anybody else out there who's got a view. We really want to hear from you all in order to go through this process of review and looking it through, making sure we haven't missed anything out. And that's this 6-week Reg 19 consultation, the jargon that Dave referred to. And then following that, we have to then gather up all the evidence that's been submitted to us over those 6 weeks, all the comments and stuff like that. We have to finalise the paperwork that we need, the assessments that have been gone through, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of assessments that have been done by the team. Incredible hard work over the last few years to get to this place where we are, and then all that is bundled up and sent off to the Planning Inspectorate, and they're the organisation who look through everything that we've done in the last few years, and they give their views on whether it's a sound plan. And I think probably Dave is in a better position to describe what soundness means in terms of planning, but equally whether it's a plan that they feel we can deliver on. And then they'll come back to us over the course of the coming year with any comments or amendments or anything that they feel we need to change. And then at some point later in the year, next year, we'll be adopting the plan, and that will be it going forward. So an adopted local plan is what we're after by the end of next year. So hopefully that covers the process.
Certainly does. Yeah, thank you so much, Councillor Curry. So yeah, very, very clear we are very near now, and yeah, this is your opportunity to review the draft plan. It's a big document, but there is a summary version, and there's lots of ways you can feedback during this consultation, which we'll touch on a bit later on. Final question, Dave, before you're going to do a fantastic presentation on what the options are coming forward, policies, and everything that everyone really needs to know. Is this now our preferred plan? You know, given the options we presented last year, is this it?
Essentially, it is, Kevin. We, as you said, we did those two consultations over recent years. The last consultation was on the options to meet our needs, the vision. And we set out those three broad options that you've outlined. We've carefully considered all the comments that we've received. We've done a shed load of evidence-based work to see whether what worked best for Medway. And we've produced this draft plan, which we, as Simon says, we're looking to consult on and then to submit. But the consultation relates to the soundness, to the legal compliance with it. And people need to comment on that, because it is our plan. We have consulted on those options. We've got lots of comments on it. We've carefully considered all those comments, and we've included them within where we can within this final plan.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to hand over now to Dave, who's going to talk you through Regulation 19 in more detail, what will be coming forward in this draft plan. And yeah, without further ado, I'll hand over to Dave.
So, Medway Local Plan, Draft Local Plan, June 2025, planning for growth in Medway up to 2041. As we've set out already, it's a huge step forward for us. Existing local plan back in 2003. Attempts since then, we've not got to this stage. And it's really important for us, because this sets out the framework that guides our growth going up to 2041. It looks where the homes should go, where the employment should go, and that's really important. We don't want to be a commuter town for London. We need jobs here in Medway, high-skilled jobs here in Medway, close to where the homes are. We need the services, the infrastructure for those communities, and we need to foster and care for those existing communities and the proposed communities as well. And then also to provide the policies that help to guide that, but also protect what is brilliant and wonderful in Medway in terms of our natural and historic environment. As we've talked about, we've referred to what actually Regulation 19 is. Legally, we've got to positively plan to meet our development needs. Now that comes through a government formula, which sets out what our growth requirements are in relation to housing and employment and so on. And we need to take that and look to how we can deliver on those development needs, but in a sustainable way. And the plan is informed by looking at what are the constraints and the opportunities. And you would have seen this in the Regulation 18s, where we set out Medway's pretty constrained. We've got the urban areas, we've got the river, we've got special protection areas, we've got sites of special scientific interest, we've got conservation areas. There's a lot of constraints, flood areas as well, a lot of constraints that we need to consider. But there are also opportunities there to enhance things, particularly in relation to around our town centres, providing the regeneration that they need, as well as linking to the opportunities to enhance our riverside and improve that sustainable transport. It's also been an assessment of those sites and options, and I'll come on to that a little bit more later. And it's informed by a huge evidence base in terms of strategic transport assessment, habitat regulations assessment, sustainability appraisals, viability assessments, and the list goes on. But we must prepare it in accordance with legal and procedural requirements, which are set out in the Planning Acts and in the National Planning Policy Framework. So Defining a strategy for Medway's future. We've talked about the Regulation 18 and the options there. Kevin outlined that we had 3 options. One which was brownfield first, seeing if we can achieve a huge amount of development on our brownfield sites and our town centre sites. Now, the advantages of that are it would help to regenerate our town centres. They are the most sustainable sites in terms of public transport. But the disadvantage is we don't want a mini London here in Medway. We want something which is fit for Medway's future, which helps for our regeneration. Not everybody wants to live in a flat. That doesn't deal with all our housing needs as well. And it doesn't conform with some of the design guidance that we've done. The second option was the converse of that, which was limiting the brownfield development, taking out some of those regeneration brownfield sites, retaining them for some of their existing uses, but then providing what developers would love to do, which is significant amount of greenfield development. The advantage of that is that it will be built out very quickly because developers love building on greenfield sites. The disadvantage is it doesn't help with our regeneration. It doesn't help with our regeneration of our town centres. And that's really, really important. And it also would result in the loss of significant amount of greenfield sites, which we want to protect as much as possible. And that development there would be less sustainable. It would be less accessed by public transport and therefore more car dominated. And that then brings sustainability issues. And then we got to the preferred option, which was a blended approach. Still looking at the brownfield first, but what can we achieve in a satisfactory way on that, in adherence to our design codes and our master plans, and then what's left? Where could we sustainably locate that with the necessary infrastructure? Now we consulted on that. It wasn't an either or, an option 1 or option 2 or option 3. People were able to comment on what they liked about individual parts of those options and what they didn't like about those. And we had about 400 comments on it. We did an extensive consultation. We went out into the area, speaking to people, talking to them about things. We've considered and assessed their comments. We've taken them forward, looking with that further evidence-based work regarding strategic transport assessment, sustainability appraisals, and so on. And we've come up with the strategy that I'll talk you through now. But quite often what people do is they jump to homes. And that is a really key part of the plan. We need to provide the homes that we in Medway need. So it is a key part. But the plan is far more than that. It's about employment. It's about jobs. It's about upskilling. It's about communities, fostering and supporting those existing communities, embedding the new communities in with them so that they work together. It's about the environment, protecting our natural and historic environment. And very, very importantly, it's about delivering the infrastructure that growth needs. And I've talked about without a plan and with a plan. That without a plan, we are reacting. We don't get things properly planned. We don't get what's needed. With a plan, we can be proactive. We can say where the growth should be, but what should come with that growth. So that's a key part about why the plan is so important. So huge challenges. We've got a plan for 24,500 homes by 2041. I've talked about how constrained Medway is. Over 30% of our area is of international or national importance for nature. We know from the comments that we receive and ourselves living here, the pressures on our existing service and the infrastructure. And then if we're going to get new development, we need improvements to transport. We need new schools. We need to address health and health inequalities. And we need to provide the community facilities to service those needs. But then in some areas, there are some viability challenges, particularly on the brownfield sites, where we're dealing with contamination issues, flood protection issues, demolition in some places. So that impacts on the viability of those. We need to consider that in terms of what we deliver, where we deliver, and with what infrastructure. We have over the years had significant challenges from government with changes in policy, changes in housing figures and housing numbers. And then there have been the challenges in relation to things like the funding, the Housing Infrastructure Fund, where we applied for a bid. There was a significant amount of time before we heard. Then we did hear. We needed to plan for that, and then for a number of reasons that was taken away by the previous government. And we need to factor that in and deal with that. And then the final point there is 24,500 homes plus the employment cannot be hidden. It's going to be a big change to Medway. That's about 14 Rochester River sites. So Medway is going to see significant changes up to 2041. But we need to plan for that, but plan it in as positive a way as it can, so people benefit from that growth. So here we are, our preferred strategy. As I said, we wanted to. The need was to start from a brownfield first. So let's see what we can achieve in our town centres, on our brownfield sites around the riverside. We think we can achieve around about 40% of our growth there. So then that's 40%. Where after that? So then we look at some of our suburban sites, and there are 3 key areas coming out there, and I will talk about them in a minute. And that's in a further 30%. So 70% of our growth will either be urban or suburban. That leaves 30%. Where can that go? And then we looked at our rural areas, particularly up on the Hope Peninsula, to see where growth could be acceptably delivered there with the necessary services. So what you see there before you, what is the difference between that and the preferred option that was as part of the Reg 18? Well, we've listened, we've considered the evidence base, we've moved away from large-scale growth at All Hallows and Lower Stoke. It was considered that was not sustainable, it was too far out, but also significant harm to the character of those villages. And that's not to say that there won't be any development in those villages, but it needs to be done in an acceptable way which respects the character. And that will possibly come through neighbourhood plans, or maybe an implementation of our small sites policy, providing developments which are respectful to the character of those villages. We've also moved away from a development to a proposal to the east of Rainham. We looked very, very carefully at that. It was a significant proposal from a land promoter and developer. We did feel that, having considered the evidence there, we felt that the impact on the A2 and the congestion there, the impact on the A2 and the air quality there, but also its impact on services and particularly Rainham Town Centre, didn't justify that site remaining and being included in the site, in the area. But we can't just take out sites. We need to factor in, well, if the growth can't go there, where should it go? And we brought in additional sites, which I will talk about and explain in a second. North Rainham in particular, west of Strood. So first of all, let's talk them through bit by bit. 40% regeneration in our urban centres and waterfronts. That's 8,500 homes. That's very much supporting our regeneration revitalisation of our town centres, particularly focusing around Strood, Gillingham and Chatham. Now, that doesn't mean that Chatham will become the regional centre that it was 25 years ago. That's not going to happen, but we need it to be revitalised, regenerated. We need more people living in there, demanding the services and facilities, bringing employment into the area, community facilities, restaurants, cafes, late night uses as well, giving it a new lease of life. Now, that needs to be aligned to design codes and master plans. It will also link to the sustainable transport, the buses, and to the trains. In Strood, we will see a new transport hub just by Strood Station, and we're also working very closely with Network Rail in terms of measures to enhance Strood railway station and improve those links that go through that station. And we'll come on to the opportunity that Medway City State brings as well. So this is our town centres. Chatham, we think we can get around about 1,350 homes, along with some employment as well. Gillingham is a bit more constrained and a bit more limited. I think we can get about 100 homes there. And then in relation to Strood, with the old Civic Centre site, the Strood Riverside around the station, and also Strood Town Centre around Tesco's and so on, I think we can get about 1,100 homes. Now, we know from our conversations with the landowners, we know from our conversations with potential developers that those sites can and will come forward. There might be some viability issues that we'll need to address, but we're confident that those sites can come forward. That's Chatham Design Code. And this gives an idea as to what we're aiming to achieve: a vibrancy in places in our town centres, a place where people want to go. We're greening them up, where people want to congregate, where there are places to live, places to go, places to work as well. And this gives an idea as to all of these photos could be in Medway. If you take the top left there, that could be Chatham waterfront, with that new development that's coming out, which is just been delivered there. But looking out over the open space, looking out over the River Medway towards Medway City Estate, that could be Chatham waterfront. Top right could be the Strand. Bottom left could be Chatham Waters down by the basins there. The middle one could be Rochester Riverside with the open space and the residential there, looking out over the River Medway. And the bottom right could well be some of our urban waterfront edges. All of that is and can be achievable in Medway. Then we've got some heritage-led regeneration, particularly in areas like Chatham Intra. Really exciting area that's coming forward. Working with the local community, particularly the creative industries there, helping to bring in new development, but a new development that is led by the heritage of the area and is appropriate for that area and builds on that wonderful community that's down there. And then we get to Gillingham Waterfront. Now, over the last 30 years, we've seen our waterfront change significantly. 30 years ago, we turned our back on the riverfront. It very much was the public are not welcome down here. We had industries, quite heavy industries, car breakers and various other things. What we've seen over the last 30 years is that regeneration along the Esplanade. We've got Rochester Riverside really blossoming now. And then we've got Chatham Waterfront and what's happening there, which is really exciting. And then we get to the historic dockyard and the old dock area. So the historic dockyard is not just a museum. Yes, it's really important for heritage, but it's a residential area. It's an employment area. It's an educational area. It's a leisure area. It's very important. And then we get to Chatham Maritime. Chatham Maritime, mixed-use development. We've got a marina. We've got residential. We've got retail. We've got leisure facilities. We've got employment. And we've got the residential part of St Mary's Island. So let's continue that regeneration from St Mary's Island through to the Strand and beyond. We're very close now to getting a riverside walk all the way from the motorway bridge, M2 motorway bridge, through the Esplanade, all the way through around this area, past the Strand, up to Gillingham Riverside Country Park. That would be an amazing achievement for that to be secured. And this riverside area is really important in terms of enhancing that area. Not just residential, it's important that we bring forward employment as well, based around the creative and cultural digital industries, providing more flexible workspace, which can be responsive to the needs in the future. We've talked about how everything is changing so quickly. We need to be able to respond to those changes so we can graft the opportunities when they arise. The opportunities here linking through to the university, linking through to the docking station, which is coming forward at the old police, the police house there. Really exciting. Lots of opportunities there in terms of the employment, and we've got lots of interest in that area. But a key part of this is the link from that area up to Gillingham railway station. The old dock railway, if we can raise the level and provide a walk cycleway, it will link the whole of that Chatham Maritime Riverside waterfront area up to Gillingham station. Makes it far more sustainable. Also helps with the regeneration of Gillingham town centre as well. And it's quite exciting. But it's not just about the people on the waterfront, the riverside, benefiting from those links. It's also the other way. It's going back to that point I was saying about opening up the riverside so everybody benefits. So the walkway will have people going down to the riverside to enjoy what's there, enjoy the restaurants, the bars, the riverside walks, the leisure that is at the Strand. It's really opening up that. And then importantly, either side of that walkway, we've got two of the most deprived wards in Medway, in the southeast, maybe even the country. But providing this this walk, it links those two areas together. It provides those links to the regeneration area, provides that link up to the town centre. It enables that social regeneration of those areas, which is absolutely critical. Now that area needs to be carefully planned and carefully master planned, so it's appropriate. And then we've got Medway City Estate. This is an opportunity. About 25 years ago, we had Sir Terry Farrell did some work for Medway Council, 5 Towns Make a City, and he looked at Medway City Estate and saw an opportunity there for a mixed-use, sustainable development, linking to Strood Station, but also linking through to Chatham and maybe Rochester with pedestrian and cycle bridges, and then opening up that riverside walk all the way around. Now, it's not just about homes, because there are some important businesses down there. It's about a mixed-use development, so there will be some residential opportunities. There'll be some leisure down there, some entertainment. There'll be that riverside walk, as well as the homes. But in addition to that, we can bring in a landscape area through the middle of the site, and that's not just important in terms of the amenity for the people living there or working there, or looking towards the site. It's also important from a climate change point of view, because tide levels are rising. We've seen particularly in recent years, the sort of the flood impacts that are happening. By having that landscaping area in the middle, we can allow it to flood in extreme circumstances, when the tides are high, when the rains are coming. What does that mean? It means that we won't have to spend excessive amounts of money on the flood protection around Medway City Estate, which will be visually intrusive and screen the development there. But also, by allowing it to flood in those extreme circumstances, it brings protection to other centres like Chatham and Rochester and Strood. It helps to protect them from the flood implications of rising tides and climate change. Now, this will take time. It's not something that's going to come forward in the early years of the plan. It needs careful planning. It needs careful master planning. So we're looking for that as an opportunity. We're working with the University of Cambridge there. And we think we can deliver around about 700 homes by the end of the plan period. That's 40% of our growth on brownfield sites, helping with that regeneration. Very, very important. Then got 30% of our growth looking at our suburban areas, delivering around about 6,400 homes. That's going to be based around Capstone, Strood, working with Maidstone and Gravesham Borough Councils. It will require significant investment in infrastructure and services if we're going to avoid just that dependency on car and unsustainable travel. And then finally, we've got quite a unique SME opportunity in North Raynham. So going through these, we lost East Hill on appeal. We lost Gibraltar Farm on appeal. That's nearly 1,300 homes we've lost on appeal. And then we've got Lidsing, which is an allocation within Maidstone Borough Council. We objected to that. We didn't win. It's been an allocation. So let's stop fighting the developments. Let's start working with Maidstone Borough Council. Let's start working with the land owner here and get something which protects what needs to be protected here, enhances what needs to be enhanced, and delivers the infrastructure and services that Medway need and deserve in relation to this development. So protecting the Darland Banks, providing that ecological corridor from the Darland Banks up through Capstone, through Lidsing, across the M2 towards the area of outstanding natural beauty, and then also from Darland Banks across our country park there, and really look to enhance that country park. Bringing in the infrastructure that's needed, secondary schools, employment, community facilities, primary schools, that link to Hempstead Valley Shopping Centre, plan properly for health there. Lidsing is proposing some doctor surgery. Is that the right way? Let's work with, and we are working with the NHS to properly deal with the health issues that will arise from that. And then we get to North Rainham. This is a site which was previously promoted many years ago for 1,200 homes and a primary school. We weren't convinced by the scheme there, and indeed we refused a planning application for it. The landowner has gone away. He's agreed with us that what was coming forward there in terms of a volume house builder proposal of that quantum development really didn't respect the character, that important rural character of that area. It didn't properly deal with the heritage, didn't properly deal with the transport issues. It's come back with an SME consortium. They're taking the number of units down from 1,200 to 750. They're looking to provide to meet our needs, so starter homes, family homes, a care home, downsizing homes, self-build, but an affordable version of self-build, linking in the infrastructure, community facilities, a secondary school, but basing it around a rural design code, which brings development which is really respectful to the character of the area. That's really, really unique. I'm not aware of any other rural design codes along this line. And then the other thing is in relation to it's being delivered by an SME consortium. This is really important in terms of employment. SMEs, small, medium enterprises, small, medium businesses, the number of them dropped off a cliff in the financial crash of 2010, and they're still struggling to re-establish themselves. They're really, really important. They're local businesses employing local people, upskilling local people. They include local trades. They use local services so that local people and the local area will benefit from a growth in SMEs. They also deliver a better quality product most of the time than the volume house builders. They also respond better to the community and the community's needs than those volume house builders. We think we can get here is a consortium of SMEs who will deliver this site, but there'll be a number of SMEs on here rather than one volume house builder, and in that way we can get something which really enhances the area and also deals with the traffic and road constraints that are in the area as well. Then finally, in terms of suburban, we've got west of Strood. Now this is right on the borough boundary with Gravesham. Gravesham are mostly a green belt authority. They've got a huge housing need. In accordance with national policy, they look at what they can meet acceptably within their area, and then if they can't meet their needs, they can look at the adjacent authorities and say to them, can you help us meet our housing needs? Now we can't simply say no to that. We've got to consider whether we can acceptably help them meet their needs. Now we have said to Gravesham in the past, you haven't demonstrated to us that you've properly considered all your options. The new NPPF, that National Planning Policy Framework, also says to Greenbelt authorities, Greenbelt is important, but not all parts of the Greenbelt are as important as others. Do a Greenbelt review and see if there are areas of the Greenbelt which could come forward for development. As a result of that, Gravesham are now looking to allocate a site there close to Junction 1 for development, and that's about two-thirds of that site. The final part of that site, final third, is within Medway. Now, if they are allocating their part of the site for development, that means the value of our site in greenbelt terms is significantly reduced. There is that greenbelt review saying that this is not as important greenbelt terms as other parts of greenbelt, but then with the Gravesham development, it means that one of the criteria for a greenbelt falls away, which is maintaining the openness. If you've got development, you lose that openness to a degree. So we're now looking to allocate our part of the third, and then working with Gravesham on a master planning of that area. And then finally, if we didn't include it, Gravesham will be saying at an examination, Medway, you need to consider our unmet housing need. You have a site there which no longer fulfills the requirements of greenbelt. We think that should go for to meet our housing need, and it's likely an inspector will agree with that. So our part of the site will likely come forward whatever. So let's, as I said, work with Gravesham. Let's work on the master planning of this site. Let's work on getting the infrastructure that's needed, because the homes here, two-thirds of them will benefit Gravesham in terms of their housing need, but the impact is all on Medway. So how can we mitigate that? How can we get the necessary services that are needed here? So we've got 40% in brownfields, we've got 30% in suburban area. So that's 70%. The remaining 30%, we're looking at our rural areas. That's largely on the Hoo Peninsula, around about 6,700 homes. And the focus there around Chatham Dean, Hoosac Werborough and High House, those are larger villages where we can, they're the closest to the urban area. They're the ones where we can really look at that sustainable transport, look at improving local services, and various things which will benefit the wider peninsula as well. But we very much need to protect our natural environment. So looking at this early plan here, we need to protect the Hogmarsh Valley. We need to avoid the coalescence of the urban area into the rural area. The Hogmarsh Valley to the west there, very, very important. Keep that separation between Wainscott and Upnor and Wainscott and Chatham Dean. And Chatham Dean is separated by the A228, but the larger part is to the north of the A228. They have a community centre, but very little else other than homes. So let's bring in a little bit of extra development. Let's move the primary school from where it currently is, a one-form entry, in a very dangerous location, close to the A228. Let's move it further into the site and make it a two-form entry, a site which is safer and which encourages the parents and the children to walk to school, but also bring in a small retailer like an Express, a Tesco Express or something in there, because those homes at the moment have nowhere to go for their top-up shopping without getting in the car and either driving to the centre of Hoo or driving down the hill to the Co-op in terms of their top-up shopping. But then we must keep the character of Chatham Dean. We must stop that coalescence of Chatham Dean with Hoo. And in this respect, the emerging community park on the old golf course at Deangate is really, really important. It's important in terms of ecology. It's important in terms of amenity. It's so important to provide that community park for the people of the Hoo Peninsula. And then we've got Cookham Community Park as well to the south. But let's link the two. Let's link the two with a landscaped open space area which respects the valley that's there. It will provide that physical and functional separation between Chatham Dean and Hoo as well. And then as we move into Hoo, round the swimming pool leisure centre there, maybe get some additional community facilities, maybe another Express shop as well. Then we get to the centre of Hoo, Lovely little centre there, some great shops and facilities. Need to protect those, but the opportunity to expand that is pretty constrained. So then we look to the east of Who, where things will come forward later in the plan period. So we've got further growth there, but that will include secondary school, maybe some retail, definitely will include some community facilities, definitely include some health facilities as well, much needed in Who and on the Who Peninsula. And then around Kingsnorth, we'll see further development on the Goodman site, the regeneration of the existing Kingsnorth industrial area, the old power station site, which is owned by Uniper, that coming forward, lots of interest in that, including industry which will generate heat, which can then be used to create district heating systems, which will help that development further to the east. And then one of the things that was said to us consistently during the Reg 18 consultation last year is, if you want to do your weekly shopping and you live on the peninsula, anywhere on the peninsula, you've either got to drive off and then on to get to Strood or Northfleet or through the tunnel to Asda, or you have a home delivery. Either way, you're generating traffic. So there is a need for a new supermarket out on the peninsula, and there's a need now, but it should be sited in a way that doesn't impact on the top-up shops in the centre of the Who or up at High Halston. So we're looking at a site for that, quite close to Flanders Farm, the Gotham site. The added benefit of that is that it will facilitate a controlled crossing across the A228, which will then improve the links or provide for links, not only to that retail and employment area, but also to the running track, also to the community park. So important links, safe, so that the people of Who, existing and prospective communities, really can benefit from those wonderful facilities there out at Deangate. So, full council agreed to adopt the plan and for it to go out to consultation. That consultation will last from the 30th of June to the 11th of August. We're going to be doing 7 staffed exhibitions across Medway. There'll also be, as there was previously, online ways of commenting as well. And then following the close of consultation, we will go through everything, and then we will submit to the planning inspectorate the plan with the comments we've received on the plan and our comments on that. And then we will likely see an examination in public in 2026. There will be some modifications that the inspector will bring to that, always happens. But then, subject to those, we're looking for adoption in December 2026. There we go. Hopefully that's helpful, Kevin and Simon.
Wow. Very, very helpful indeed. Yeah, thank you so much, Dave. So thorough. As always, throughout these 3 podcasts, every presentation has gone into so much useful detail, and hopefully, yeah, you can see just how much work has been done by the planning team to get this draft local plan in place. And wherever you live in Medway, hopefully you've understood a bit more now about the opportunities that will hopefully come forward with the local plan being in place. Supermarket, for example, on the Who Peninsula, just one of lots of areas of opportunities that Dave has gone through in very much a lot of detail. So thank you so much, Dave. Excellent presentation. I'll give you a break, Dave, just for a little bit. I'm just going to ask Councillor Curry first of all. So obviously target for housing, over 24,000 homes up to 2041, so the next 15 years. With that target, how will the local environment be protected over the coming years to ensure we meet that housing target, but at the same time, we're protecting those kind of vital green spaces and the local environment in terms of air quality as a whole. So what are we going to be doing to protect the local environment?
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin, for that question. I mean, it's really crucial question. Just a quick thanks to Dave. You've seen the amount of work. I just reiterate what you're saying there about the detail that the planning team have to go into in order to get this right. It's a massive task, and they've done a brilliant job to date. And as far as our environment is concerned, there's a number of different aspects that we look at. One of them is obviously the climate change implications of everything that's going on outside of our control as well as within our control. So we have to do what we can to sort of mitigate that climate impact, and working with not just in Medway alone, but with our neighbouring authorities and on a national level with our government, who then is working internationally as well. So we do our bit to reduce energy as much as we possibly can, and when we do have to use energy, we source it from sustainable sources. So one of the things that you'll see in all the new housing that's being proposed, and that's around about 1,600 homes a year is going to be built to provide those numbers that we've got to achieve. They'll be environmentally friendly homes. They'll be gas free. They'll be run by air source heat pumps, solar panels, that kind of energy production, as well as the heat network that Dave referred to. That sort of work is going on. So to minimise our energy use is really important. Equally, in the provision of open space, we do what we can to provide as much open space as possible within the new urban areas that are coming, and to continue to manage our existing open spaces as best we can to provide for biodiversity, but also the carbon capture that open spaces provide, planting trees as much as we can. But then there's the resilience against climate change, which is all about protecting our urban areas, particularly from urban heating. Now, urban heating can cause a lot of health issues, particularly amongst the elderly or people who've got disabilities or other conditions, that sort of thing. So planting trees is one solution. The design of buildings is another solution, and how we achieve that is part of this thinking going forward. So there's a lot of issues around climate change, but also let's not forget that Medway's got these fantastic open areas of the marshlands to the north and the Kent Downs just sort of south and to the west of us, and we must do as much as we can to protect and enhance those. The launch of the new National Nature Reserve just around Ranscombe Farm is one example of what we're trying to achieve there. And on the North Kent marshes, we're supporting the RSPB in their UNESCO bid for a World Heritage Site all the way down the east coast of the UK for the birds particularly, and that takes in the North Kent marshes as well. And we've got a lot of international designations on those areas. They are all protected and secure from development, and we're doing what we can to work with landowners and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on the environmental side. And just on the final point I mentioned about pollution, air pollution is a big problem in Medway. We have got 4 air quality management areas. Hopefully in the next few months going down to 3, because of the work that's already been done. The Pier Road site is likely to come out, but we need to make sure that we don't just simply build houses and have loads more cars on the road, and the houses are churning out from gas and stuff like that, from burning fossil fuels. We want to reduce that as much as possible. So the work on our public transport particularly is crucially important in terms of our climate resilience and protecting our community from air pollution. So there's a lot to go on there, a lot we're trying to achieve, we're already achieving, and the local plan builds on that work that we're doing already.
Thank you so much, Councillor Curry. And you heard it here first there. Yeah, I didn't realise that about the air quality management areas. So currently got 4, and you say hopefully coming down to 3 with Pier Road no longer being.
Yeah, the latest plan that's just come out from our team who deal with that is saying, well, actually the levels of air pollution there are coming down. So it's very exciting. We'll see what happens. It's a decision made by government, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get that.
Fingers crossed. No, thank you so much. No, that's excellent. Yeah, great answer. Thank you very much, Councillor Coe, for that. Right, I'm going to go back to you now, Dave. So yeah, this might be a question on everyone's mind who has been reading the news last few months about local government reorganisation. So it's coming forward in the next few years. If you don't know what that is, it will be the merging of local councils into unitary authorities. So Medway is already a unitary authority, but we are looking at merging with other local councils within Kent, and that'll be made up of possibly 3 or 4 overall unitary authorities across the county. So Dave, you touched on your presentation how important it is to work closely with like Gravesham Borough Council, Maidstone Borough Council for development in Capstone and Strood. But yeah, how will our local plan be impacted by what's coming down the track with local government reorganisation. Will we need a new local plan in place in a few years' time if this plan is adopted in 2026, and local government reorganisation could see new unitary authorities come forward in 2028 possibly? So yeah, could you touch on that in a bit more detail?
It's a really good question, Kevin. And I think the fact that local government reorganisation is coming forward actually emphasises even more the importance of the local plan. It will be vital to that new authority moving forward, so that when they start, they have at least one, depending on who we co-join with, other local plans, which will help to give very clear guidance as to what should happen in those areas. That is a really good starting base for the new authority. What they will then be able to do is to start work on their own local plan, covering the whole of that new unitary area, and that's entirely reasonable. I mean, if we just take our plan, although our local plan will go up till 2041, once we get this plan adopted, might give myself a day off, might give a team a couple of days off. We then will start on the review of that plan, and essentially that's what will happen here, is that the new unitary council will take those existing plans, will use them to guide development, but will then start on the production of their own plan covering the new unitary area.
Fantastic. No, thank you very much, Dave, for that. Yeah, hopefully that's clear in terms of the absolute importance of still getting this local plan in place, and obviously local government organisation will hopefully will be coming forward in the next few years. So yeah, that's really clear. Thank you very much, Dave, for that. Next, just in terms of traffic challenges across Medway, as we know, whether that's Four Elms Hill congestion during rush hour, road closures in Rainham currently at the moment. So just to go into a bit more detail, Dave, how will the local plan open up those opportunities to improve local road infrastructure, not just in one particular area, but across Medway where it's needed?
Yeah, and you've asked a question or made a point, Kevin, which will be the forefront of most residents' minds, because if we don't plan for the impact of that growth, Medway will just grind to a halt. So we need to think about what are the implications. We've done some work on a strategic transport assessment based on our growth, and that has come up with some big ticket items which need to be addressed. So that includes Four Elms roundabout, Sandsborough roundabout, and Gillingham Gate by the police station. So those three junctions will need to be addressed. Junction 4 of the M2, as part of Lidsing's development, will get a fourth arm. Junction 1 of the M2 will have some more minor improvements. And they're all important, but we don't want to just focus on that. If we're going to keep Medway moving, if we're going to deal with the climate change issues that Simon's talked about, we need to provide sustainable travel. And that means that we need to focus on walking, cycling, and buses and rail as well. So in relation to those areas, let's look at development. Let's try and get some bus priority measures in there in terms of how the buses can move about Medway. Let's give some more bus priority there. So and then work with the bus companies so that we address the concerns that residents have as to why they're not used as much as they should do. The reliability, the cost, and the timing. We want to be able to deliver a bus service where it's as quick to get on a bus to get to where you want to go, whether that's in Strood or Chatham or whatever, as it is to get into your car. And then provide some transport hubs, providing a transport hub at Strood by the station, getting Network Rail to work with the bus companies and work with us. So there's that integrated ness there as well. And then we want to enhance the connectivity between our towns so that people actually enjoy the walk from Strood to Rochester to Chatham. It's a really pleasant walk and more likely to do it. We need to also make cycling safer for people. So that encourages those uses. So all of those things are factored into the plan.
Thank you very much, David. Yeah, you touched on a really key point there about, yeah, sustainable travel. And I mean, you talked in the presentation about the Street Transport Hub, certainly helping to do that alongside active travel opportunities. Yeah, from Gillingham Pier up to Gillingham Town Centre, which can make a big difference. Councillor Curry, in terms of public transport opportunities, you know, what do you want to see kind of come forward over the next 15 years? And I suppose particularly, how can we also make the most of the River Medway? We have just recently opened up more opportunities with from a tourism perspective. So we've now got sailings running from the new boat platform at Rochester Riverside, which is fantastic, and they're running through the summer. But yeah, what are the opportunities as well for the river alongside yeah, public transport as a whole? What would you like to see come forward?
You're absolutely right. I mean, the opportunities are quite, you know, there's an awful lot of chance here to really make a massive difference. One of the things that I love about the approach to the plan this plan takes, and some of the regional work that we're doing as well with neighbouring authorities, is about integrating our transport network together. So people don't need to get in the car because the bus links them to the station and then they can get to London or whatever, that kind of thing. And equally with the river transport, I mean, the new service that's operating down on the river is looking to go as far as Southend eventually, which would be fantastic. So we've got a number of piers and wharfs along the river which are fit for redevelopment. We own some of them, and we're looking at a river strategy to run parallel with the local plan, where we can bring those wharfs into play, if you like, as potentially river bus stops, that kind of thing. We already see this on the Thames in London. There's no reason why the Medway can't be the same. So that's very exciting prospect going forward. And I think the important thing about that is that it won't then just be for tourism purposes and sort of sightseeing or whatever, but people could easily travel. If you work on the Medway City Estate, or if you work at Kingsnorth and you live in Chatham, you can get a river bus to work, which would be quite an exciting thing to see happen. And another aspect of that, and Dave mentioned in his presentation about the ideas we've got for the Medway City Estate, and that would be walking bridges across from there into Rochester and Chatham, so that people could cycle or walk over the river that way. So that kind of building the transport and actually sort of enjoying the river, rather than sort of trying to pretend it's not there by driving around it, is part of what our thinking is there. And there's every opportunity to do that now.
Bridges, yeah, connecting one town to another over the river, and yeah, river taxis. This is very, very exciting, and yeah, it's hopefully going to be a very bright future. So thank you very much for that, Councillor Curry. Just staying then with public health. Yeah, I mean, just how important is it for Medway to have, you know, new infrastructure like, you know, river walks, you know, that can absolutely make a big difference in helping residents have a more healthier, happier life. Obviously, it's vitally important we hopefully can improve local health services, but in terms of infrastructure as a whole, it's also really important that, yeah, things like, you know, walking, cycling, etc., are also included in this plan.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that we obviously we've identified the need for new health facilities. The James Williams Centre will be opening soon in the centre of Chatham, that kind of thing. So we've got that sort of work going on with our health authority partners. But really what we'd prefer is people didn't have to use those so much. That's the key, really. And we look at our future generation, and that's what this plan is all about. It's not just about the present and what we can do now. It's about the next generation. It'd be great if the next generation of young people growing up in Medway are a lot healthier than some of us are at the moment. I mean, I'm one of the victims that I've got, of where we are in terms of our personal health. It's about improving that, getting out and about more walking and cycling, but also engaging with your community more and building that sense of community. We've got some fantastic green spaces, a huge number of green space volunteers and some great groups out there doing lots of lovely work in our parks. It's about having more of that. Part of the local plan talks about allotments as well, and how we grow the number of allotments in Medway, so that people have got a chance to get out and do some digging and growing their own veg and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of opportunities in there about that health and living, and often they refer to it as social prescribing as well, where the doctor will say to you, actually, yes, you need to have a bit of medicine, or you need to have this health sort of intervention, but equally, I'm prescribing you to get out more and do more with your community, with your friends, with your family, and get some fresh air and get some exercise as well. So it all ties together in a sort of initiative, all built around our health and wellbeing agenda for Medway, which includes the new marketplace that we've got and things like that, which is a very exciting initiative too.
It certainly is, and yeah, you'll be hearing a lot about Medway being a Marmot place throughout 2025. So yeah, do follow us on our Better Medway social media platforms for more details on that. But yeah, absolutely, there's so much can go towards helping us live healthier, happier lives in Medway. And just going back on health to Dave, it'll be a question again on many residents' minds about Medway Hospital. What are the opportunities with the hospital? Have we planned for a new hospital in the new local plan? And what's the rationale behind the decision there?
Thanks, Kevin. And as you quite rightly say, it is a comment or a question we're regularly asked. In terms of the pressure on the existing hospital and how's it going to cope with growth. We've been talking over many years now with the NHS, with the ICB, about our growth needs, what's going to happen in Medway and surrounding areas as well, and what are the implications. It's been made very clear to us that there won't be a new hospital, but what they're looking at is to take aspects out of the hospital into local areas. So it could be the healthy living centres, where certain things, it could be the Debenhams proposal, for instance. So take certain things out of the hospital and go into those local areas to free up that capacity in the hospital itself. And then I'd also two other things. One, the NHS are talking to us about the need for the equivalent of further healthy living centres, particularly focused around Strood, particularly focused around the Home Peninsula as well. What they will look like, we've not got to the detail yet, but very much identifying those two areas. And then finally, just reiterating Simon's point, which is in terms of our health, it's that 20-80 split, where health, only 20% can be dealt with by the health service, doctors, surgeries, hospitals. The other 80% is how we work together as a community, how we live our lives, the energy efficiency of our homes, the social regeneration we're bringing forward in the local plan, the access to services, the access to green spaces, and so on. Everything that Simon talked about, all of that will help to reduce the pressure on those health services.
Thank you very much, David. Yeah, that's a fascinating stat as well, the 80-20 split. So yeah, really, really powerful. Thank you. Okay, so consultation. Dave, comments that will come through in this consultation, how will the comments be used, and will any changes be made to the draft local plan before it's submitted?
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, we're inviting people, as Simon has said all the way through, we're inviting people to make comments on this, particularly related to soundness and legal. We will go through all of those comments when we receive them. We will then bundle up the documents to send to the planning inspectorate. So there'll be the draft plan, there'll be everybody's comments, and then there'll be our comments on those comments with possibly suggested changes for the inspector to consider.
Thanks, Dave, for clearing up that process. So yeah, no changes to be made at this stage. Comments will be submitted alongside the draft plan, and we're looking to submit towards the end of this year.
Yeah, hopefully around about November.
Around November. Perfect. Thank you very much. Great stuff. Okay, so final thoughts then before we round up. So to yourself, Dave, just why is it so important for residents to use this opportunity now, this 6-week consultation, to take a look at the draft local plan? It is a 400-page document, but we do have a summary document as well, available on our consultation portal, that highlights all the kind of key outtakes. So why is it important, Dave, for residents to go through and provide some comments?
I think it's important because it affects every single person in Medway. It's about our children and their future in terms of their health, in terms of their education, in terms of giving them access to employment, giving them access to homes that they will need. It's about affordability of homes. It's about enabling people to have homes or buy their own home before they're 37, which is the current average age of the first-time buyer. It's about them not having to worry about a huge percentage of their wages being taken up with rent or mortgage. It's about those open spaces. It's about that social regeneration. I could go on, and I think I have through the presentations and so on, but the plan's important. It impacts on everybody. I think it's really exciting. I think it's really positive. It's building on that growth, but looking to make it as sustainable as it can be, so that everybody in Medway will benefit in some way from the future growth.
Thank you, Dave. And Matt's stat, I mean, that is alarming, isn't it? So is that a national stat? So the average age of a first-time buyer is now 37 years old.
In the southeastern Medway in Kent, it's 37. Further north, it's slightly less. But 37. There are some horrific stats that we could talk about in terms of that first-time buyer, in terms of the number of people on the waiting list, in terms of the homelessness, the number of children in temporary accommodation. There are lots of stats that we can make, and the plan is about planning to address those. And I know you may touch on this later, but the importance of this plan is we want Medway in the future, now and in the future, to be a great place to live, work, learn, and visit. It's so important.
Thank you, Dave. And final question to Councillor Curry. So let's stay on that theme. What will a local plan do then, Councillor Curry, to ensure Medway will be a greater place to live, work, learn, and visit? For the next 15 years.
Well, I mean, a couple of things in respect to that. I mean, Dave, reflected on that in his presentation about the fact that we're being reactive at the moment with no local plan. A developer comes forward with a site and they say, well, you need housing, we're going to stick housing here, what are you going to do about it? We go to a public inquiry and we lose, and that's been happening for many years now. And the consequence of that is that we're not able to do our creative planning that we want to see. We're just reacting to the situation and having to cope with the consequences. Good example out at Cllr, where there's a lot of development going in there, which was unplanned, and the only road out there is the B2000, which isn't really fit for transport purposes and buses and what have you. So we're having to deal with that now and solve those problems retrospectively, if you like. With a local plan, that's not going to happen. We have control. We've got a 5-year housing land supply in there. We're going to be delivering. We've got the sites. We're working with the developers rather than against them. All those issues, we're working with the community. So that's what the surety of having a local plan gives, control over development. And Dave mentioned the word sustainability. That's got the three bits to sustainability. One is about a sustainable environment, and we've talked about how important that is and the measures that we're doing. Another is about sustainable communities for the future, and we've talked a lot about that and how important this is for the next generation as well, and all the sort of infrastructure that's needed for those communities. But there's the other third element, which is the economy, which we've not mentioned a great deal, and having a sustainable economy for the future is crucially important. And that's what this local plan does. It gives the developers surety of where housing can go. You want to build a house in our area, this is where you can put it. and they can go ahead and plan their future and cost it up and fund it, and they know that they're going to get what they get projects going in that respect. And then equally, it says to anyone wanting to invest in Medway, we've got a plan for the future. Come and invest in us. Businesses here, we want people to be working locally and living locally, as Dave said, and this local plan gives a lot more security and surety to business, particularly in these changing times. As we know, we said already how volatile things are. We're not here in Medway. With this plan, we can say there's some certainty here, invest with us. So that's kind of what it gives us going forward as well.
Thank you. And yeah, I mean, Medway, I suppose, is bucking the trend at the moment, well, the national trend in terms of local economy growth. I think it's coming now, it's 7.6 billion.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, which is fantastic. 14,000 businesses based here in Medway. And that's obviously growing all the time. So yeah, the future is bright, and yeah, providing more investment opportunities to continue the success story that's developing. Yeah, that'll be a great achievement. Great stuff. Okay, so we've kind of reached the end of today's podcast. So my thanks indeed to both Councillor Simon Curry and Dave Harris. Dave, first of all, did you have any final message to round off on before we leave?
I'm not sure, but Kevin, I think Simon summed it up so well there, and it is about encouraging people to look at the plan, to think about it positively, to think about the growth moving forward, the climate change, how things, if they think back 15 years and how things have changed, think how that's accelerating, and how it needs to be properly planned. So just encouraging people to engage in the plan process, and help us make it work and make Medway the great place that it is now and should be in the future. We've said it before, great place to live, work, learn and visit.
Absolutely, yeah, perfect. Now, thank you so much, Dave. And finally, to yourself, Councillor Curry, any final message?
Yeah, equally, don't hesitate to get involved in the process. There's an opportunity now to have more of a say. If you've not had one before, now's your first chance. If you know, so always encourage to get in touch with us through the various channels that are open for that. Talk to your local councillors. I always say that's what we're here for. If you've got something to say and you're not sure where to say it or how to say it, then give your local councillor a call and talk to them, because that's what you elected us for, kind of thing, to represent your views. So there's always that opportunity. And I think also it's really nice to see this happening at this stage. We aren't certain about the future. There's a lot going on, but this is one of the things we are doing, which is very positive and very exciting for our future. So yeah, get involved.
Absolutely, get involved. Perfect message to round off on. Thank you so much. So the consultation, so it's from the 30th of June up until the 11th of August. We are running 7 public events through July. So all the details of the locations of those are up on our website. So do take a look at that. You'll also be able to find out how to take part in the consultation online. So there'll be a link to our consultation portal, various details on how you can access the main document and all the other supporting documents if you wish to really kind of read into all the various huge amount of work that's gone into getting the draft plan in place. And the website is www.medway.gov.uk/future Medway. And you can also submit comments as well via email and also via post. So take a look online for further details on that as well, all the ways you can take part in this consultation. So yeah, my thanks again to Councillor Simon Curry and Dave Harris. We'll finish up there. Have a great rest of the day, evening, whatever you're doing. Thank you very much for watching this podcast, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.